Welcome back to Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom, part of the Migration Media Network. I'm Brendan Davis, your host, and this week's guest is Marina Barayeva. Marina is a portrait photographer. She's based here in Beijing and is also the host of her own podcast, which is called Marketing for Creatives. She interviews experts from a wide variety of fields, but it's all related to helping entrepreneurs with growing and expanding a creative business really specifically. And her story is really interesting of how she came from a relatively small city in Russia to live here in Beijing, China, and she's had a lot of interesting travels along the way. And it was so fun to talk to her. She has this real passion for learning and for also sharing her information with people to help them with their business. And it really shows, I think, in our chat. I hope so. We had a great talk, and I hope you enjoy that. I also want to give you a quick update on just kind of my world. I have really been editing day and night these days. The TV project that I referenced, this documentary TV project here in China that I got, it was really great, but the timing of that really smashed my existing schedule that I had and the plans I had kind of to bits. So I've had to regroup and reframe my own priorities for other projects, one of which, of course, is this Udemy course, the learning platform Udemy, where I have been building a podcasting course. And that course has been delayed, but I want to give you a final update before the launch. It is coming very, very soon. I'm in the process of outputting that at night. I'm basically working on the TV project during the day, and then on nights and weekends, I am finishing up my podcast course. I expect to have it all output and finished this week and uploaded to their servers for approval. I'm not sure how long that process takes, but if you're interested in that podcast course, I'll have more to say about that next week for sure. I will have a special offer for Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom listeners. If you're curious to take the course, I will offer a very deep discount on that. Also, the Big Fish book that I have talked about, I've announced this on previous episodes, but in case you have not heard that, there's a book that is really a best of so far. The plan was to have the book be the best of the first year of the show. I've had to push that. My original intended release date was actually today, August 1st, China time, but I'm going to push it back to December 2018. This is not totally the TV show's fault in terms of the timing. That's part of it, but it was frankly more ambitious than I intended when I took it on, and I want to do a great job. So what I'm going to do is push it back as far as the release date, but I'm expanding it to include basically the best of the entire show so far. I'll be adding things even from the interviews right up until I'm actually finished with it to publish it. So more on that as it comes together. Lastly, for now, I will say that next week's episode is going to mark a very slight tweak to my format, which is going to expand the pool of guests that I get to talk to a bit. I still have this focus, but I'm going to just change it ever so slightly to expand this, and I think everybody who listens to the show now will find this to be a nice change. Let me know. More on that next week, though. For now, please enjoy the conversation with Marina. So I'm here with Marina Barayeva.
Yes.
How bad was that in the scale of 1 to 10 screw up your name?
7.5.
7.5 acceptable.
Yes.
Awesome.
A little more Russian accent and you'll be almost perfect.
That is really kind of you. I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for doing this show. You are also a podcaster and a marketer, but that's not for me to say yet. That's for you to say. I have a traditional first question. And that is, please give us the short version of who you are, where you're from, and for you, why China, and then we will get into the details.
Well, you already asked 2 questions. The short version of my story and why I'm in China. So it's going to be a little long.
You take your time. You take your time.
Okay. So I'm originally from Russia, but I'm based in China for more than 7 years already. And I traveled a lot, but the most common question when people ask me, why you got to China?
Yes.
How you got here. And that was very funny because that time I was working I work as web designer, freelance web designer, so I had clients all over the world and I could be anywhere. And I got bored at home.
Yeah.
You just work with your computer and I'm like, I need to do something. And one of my friends got a scholarship in China. He just liked Chinese culture and everything. Before he left, we got a coffee together. And while we were talking, I made a joke. I'm gonna come and visit you. He was like, yeah, come. I'm like, I will come to visit you. He said, yeah, sure, come. And I'm like, okay.
You're actually going to do it.
Yeah, just go to China. So in a month, he texted me, so you're coming? I'm like, are you seriously? I will come to China. He's like, yeah. So I booked a ticket, got a visa. In 2 weeks, I was in China. he was doing his studies, and I rented a place here for 1 month, and that was a crazy time.
Yeah.
Because I thought everyone should speak English here.
Right.
And I rented the place in Chinese era. And that was so difficult because you walk outside and you don't know anyone who you can talk to. Mm-hmm. You don't know what to buy because you go to Chinese restaurants and there's everything in Chinese.
Sure.
No English.
As you would expect if you live here. But yeah, you learn these things.
So after the time I got back to Russia, and then I thought like I have even more nothing to do. I need to go back to China. China was like another planet. And I gave myself a challenge. If I will be able to speak Chinese within half the year, I can do anything.
Half a year. That's
a year.
That's a great goal. Okay.
Yeah, so I started learning it for like my 3 months by myself while I was preparing the documents for the university here. And then I got to the university for 4 months, for 1 semester. And that's it.
Yeah.
And then it was so hard. I was ready to cry when I was studying. But, well, my Chinese is intermediate. Mm-hmm. I can speak. I'm not fluent, but it's enough for living here for so many years. Work, travel, and send messages, buy stuff on Taobao.
Well, that's an accomplishment. I used to have my old assistant used to have to help me with the Taobao. Mm-hmm. So now I impose on friends.
So that was a great time. And, well, when I was a teenager, I loved doing modeling. It was my hobby. Mm-hmm. And then it just switched more to my work, and I like everything creative and artistic. So then because I was in front of the camera as a model, I was in some ads, some acting, so like all of this. Then I switched to photography. And now I'm a photographer, and I've been here in this industry for like more than 6 years already since I started. I had my online photography school, which let me travel and get some extra income. And last year I started Marketing for Creatives podcasts, which my dream is to help other creatives or solopreneurs or freelancers to find their passion and just live their dreams, to be able to build it as a business.
Well, and I skipped right ahead, and I didn't mean to gloss over you not being a photographer, because I know we're going to get into it. But I discovered you at a podcasting event, and that's how we started chatting. And then I discovered, you gave me the info for your podcast, which I've enjoyed. And so that's all. You've already branded yourself to me as this. I'm the girl who's like talking about marketing for creatives, basically. So how did you decide to do this podcast? What was it that actually planted that spark for you?
Well, for several years I wrote like blog posts or some social media posts about marketing and business. I always loved those things. If you look at my bookshelf, my ebook shelf, you will see a lot of business books, marketing, self-development, personal development, like all of these things. And I do like creativity. I'm like someone in between, and which sometimes people surprise that when I say that one of my degrees is in engineering.
Okay. Really? What kind of engineering?
Engineering, computer science.
Okay.
So I'm kind of mix of everything, and I was looking for the ways how can I bring everything together. Mm-hmm. And because I was in web design, I know all of this website stuff, and I cannot produce bad content or bad photos or bad something. So I needed to come up to something good. And when I do blog posts and when I start writing and there's like long article which takes me a couple of days to write, then edit because I'm not native English speaker, and then you pause at the end of that, I'm like, I don't want to do blogging anymore. you want to just leave it.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
And I wanted to find a way how can I just still keep going. And I was thinking about podcasting because it's easier for me to talk.
Sure.
And I like to just engage with people, do interviews. There was a time when I didn't have people scheduled for my interviews.
Okay.
And I'm like, I have to do an episode. Because if I decide something, I cannot leave it.
So you had to do like a solo episode
I
because
had
you
to
didn't
do
have a guest.
solo
Yeah,
episode.
I've done some of those. I've done some by choice, and I've done a few by necessity if I need to put an episode out. And scheduling didn't work out for some reason.
Sometimes it happens. Sometimes they happen.
People
they
have an
just-
emergency, and you've
Exactly.
planned for that week that's the guest, and you don't have one in the can. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just decided that almost a year ago, I decided. So 1 year, I'm going to dedicate for podcasting.
Okay.
No matter what outcome I will get, and I'll focus on the quality, on building up the episodes, audience, and everything. But what people usually ask me, especially ask in the beginning, Marina, where's money?
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not my priority right now.
Right.
And it just like, there's so many great people who appear in my podcast. I would never expect to talk to them. I interviewed my favorite book authors.
Yeah, you've had some really excellent guests. You've had some fairly high-profile people in your world specifically, and I was gonna not interrupt you to get to it, but yeah, no, you should be. I can tell you're proud of it, and I think you should be because you've really started to. The risk of a lot of podcasts, especially in the early days, is they can sound like they're just, coming out of the closet. I'm doing this from like my room closet, and here's my one friend who knows something kind of about this topic. But you've actually gone for legitimate people, and you've gotten them on your show. How have you done that? Have you just reached out through their channels and pitched yourself? I mean, how are these people or how does it work for you? Just kind of generally speaking.
I started, in the beginning, who am I? I'm a girl from Russia living in China. English is not my native language, right? And I needed to reach someone, and I needed to start with someone. So a couple of years ago, I was in one of the conferences, and I got in touch with one of the speakers there. So I reached him out, and I asked, how about we do the interview? I'm going to launch a podcast. What do you think? And he's always, encouraged me to do something. Sometimes we talk to him, and he's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, perfect. So my first episode, that was one of the worst moments.
Yeah.
Because I was so nervous.
Okay.
And he's on another side of the world. Mm-hmm. So I was supposed to wake up at 7 a.m.
Uh-huh.
And I put alarm on 7 p.m.
Okay.
And I'm sleeping and something blinking in front of my eyes.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, I check and there's a message. I was still doing an interview. I sent you a request. I'm like, yes, of course.
And you're like sound asleep.
No. I had 5 minutes later. I was in
Wow.
front of my mic, laptop, and everything. And he's like, you look perfect. Wow, so early morning. I'm like, yes.
It's just magic.
Did I brush my hair?
Meanwhile,
I
you're
don't
thinking,
remember.
you're thinking either I did a good job or this guy has low standards. Or
So we've done a great episode. And then I just put it as a template. Like I put it as I would already publish my episode. Mm-hmm. And then I reach out to some people. Because I thought about podcasting for some time, and because I've done some bloggings, I got in touch on social media with some people. So I reached them out, would you like to be a guest on my podcast? And I was surprised that people said yes. Some of them said no, but many said yes. And that was just, I was so grateful for that. And then when I started the show, I started asking people if someone can recommend me the person, or I was in, do you know GLD from Entrepreneurs of Fire? John Lee Dumas.
I know who. Yeah.
So I'm in his podcaster sport as a girl.
Oh, fantastic.
It's so supportive. There are a lot of great people who do podcasts, and in the group you can actually post any questions about podcasting, or I'm looking for the guests, and a lot of people just come from nowhere and help answer the questions. So you get a lot of support, encouragement, and this is how I started. And then, because one of my key person in the beginning was Dory Clark, I'm so grateful that she was on my podcast.
Yeah.
And I launched her episode, the first one. Even if it wasn't the first of the
But that's
recording.
actually what you launched with.
Yeah, but I launched with her because I followed her work for some time, and I told her that time she just published her book, and I said, I like your book, and this is very meaningful for me.
Excellent.
And this is what I'm going to talk about. The first episode was about how to become a recognized expert and build your personal brand. And this is what creatives and entrepreneurs do. Because we're like solo persons, right? And we need to grow up our brand somehow. And then she's just everywhere.
Yeah.
And when I send messages to people, I just give...
You send that link.
I send some links, including her link.
Sure.
And because many people know who is she, they're like, oh, you've done an episode with her? Yeah.
Right.
Sure. And now when you get already many people who know a lot of other people, it's much easier to book guests.
So that's marketing lesson number one is have guests who have name and brand recognition and bring value to the show. And that's something that because I have this specific angle of people who have come to China to do things that are interesting, unusual, or crazy, that's a very specific focus. There are plenty of people I know from kind of entertainment world who, some of whom are bigger names, but they don't have any connection to China. Like, there's no reason for them to be on my show. And I've had friends say, oh, you should do another podcast, just to talk to those people. But you found a way to integrate this. And what do you think is the reason? I mean, I guess it's in your specific focus of people who are dealing with being entrepreneurs and marketing. I imagine is it easy to get people to be guests? I mean, people want to talk about that, right? I mean, because people who are experts in that world typically have a book or something that they're promoting because their brand is them communicating. Is it easy enough for you to book guests, or is it still like a big challenge?
Now it's more easy because I have a lot of people on the show. And often, even if I appear on someone's show, people mention like, oh, you interview some of my friends. So, of course, we're going to interview you. Or that they just refer to some like episodes or the subject we talk about.
Right.
Because they know these people, right? And wherever I go now, I just think about who this person may know from the list of people who I interview, and I just send a link. And this is, when I do some new projects, this is the kind of the foundation which I put there. Look for the people who either have big network or they're known for something. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they may be known, but they're not too famous on social media, but people know their name, right? So now I can go to basically any business industry like social media marketing or speaking, public speaking, or like business stuff. And I have someone who people will recognize.
So before we get too into the details of your current professional career, I'd like to go back a bit and talk about growing up in Russia, how you got interested in photography. And I'm guessing because you mentioned doing modeling and acting, of course, you're around that. And so that's, if you're inclined toward that stuff, it's interesting. But you tell me your story. Did you grow up in a big city or did you grow up in a smaller city? Where are you actually from as a little girl?
It depends on how people consider a big city or small city.
Sure.
Beijing is huge.
Sure.
And I have some friends from Europe who say like our country, like Beijing.
Exactly.
Right? So in my city, we have about like 400,000 people.
Okay.
It's okay. Mm-hmm. But my city is more industrial. We have 2 big plants and people usually work there. It's not really creative. Mm-hmm. And, well, I do like all the creative stuff. So modeling was fun, especially when you watch this movie. And I'm told Pretty Girl. And I was doing that for fun. Mm-hmm. And because I was doing that, and when I switched my country, I moved to China. Here is more easy. I've been in some movies here, in some fashion shows, in some, commercials. In China, I think you can do everything. That's why I like it here. You can try everything, you can have some challenges, you can find new ways to enjoy your life.
Awesome. I think that's what a lot of people, that's a common theme on the show, and I relate to that personally about, I'm kind of an oddball in the sense, well, maybe just in general, but specifically professionally, I mean, I'm doing what I've been doing, but it has morphed and it has changed. And I've adapted because of the unique opportunities and also the challenges of being here, because it shaped it. So in terms of shaping you, I want to go back to something that you mentioned earlier. You mentioned visiting your friend, that first time, and you went back home when you're basically bored. There's still nothing going on. You're like, I have to go back to China. Why? What about China was the hook for you? Because you talked about, was that the challenge of this? Was that what kind of drove you so much? I mean, because you could have gone a lot of places. Why did you want to specifically come to China?
Why people want to go to the moon? It's something so different. That was China for me.
Nice.
Because I was in the US, Europe is quite similar. You see similar faces, similar culture. Yes, it's a different country, but a lot of things you see similar. China, it's another planet. Just even still, after so many years living here, there are many things which I cannot get used to or surprise me here. And it's Beijing, they develop everything here so fast. Just like it. It was very interesting. And here, you can travel. My first few years here, I traveled a lot over China. Then my last several years, I traveled a lot over the world. I still go back to Russia every year to see my family, to see my friends. But I get back here like I get back home.
So you've been in China for a while, and you've had a lot of really formative experiences. What are some of the biggest things that you have learned from being here?
The best thing I've learned here is don't be perfect.
Okay. And what do you mean by that?
You accept a lot of things. Like, it's okay being someone from another country and do not speak English well and do the podcast or do some, like, movies or do some actings, whatever, like commercials, modeling. You can work in another country, and that's fine. And when you do things in China, well, in Russia, we are more perfectionists.
Understand.
In China, when you have your appearance, they do not really, not always they look for perfections in you. It's more important how you present yourself. This is what I learned here. When I was doing modeling here, like many years ago, just in my very, very beginning, one of my agents told me, you can be a professional model. It doesn't matter. But when you get to the podium, you should look or you should present yourself as you know what you're doing. When you talk to your clients, you should be comfortable. Or you can be a professional model, but when you come and tell people that, I'm not sure if I can do this, or say that I'm not really professional while you've done like several years of modeling, and they will, in their mind, you will be a unprofessional model. It doesn't matter what's your experience.
Right.
But when you present yourself from the position that you know your stuff, automatically, even if you do mistake, people will forgive.
Nice.
And it's okay to make mistakes.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that that's the what you're saying is like the default reaction? What do you have an idea of why that is? What's your take on that?
Because in Russia, I was taught to be perfect, being the best student. I was the best grader of the year, and then I always also had doubts in myself. In my 20s, when I was doing modeling, my agent told me, "You are too old for being a model."
Really?
Yeah, in my 20s. Like, I don't remember, like I was 18, 19 or 20, about this time. Sure. And I'm like, really? And then in my 20s, 25, I decided that I'm even younger.
Yeah.
And I can be a model.
Nice.
Because when my agent told me that in my 20s, she did not tell me that I'm too old for Paris or London's podium.
Right.
When they're looking for girls like 15, 16 years old. Then they can
they want to
teach
train them.
Yes, right. Exactly. And then they can make money together. But you can be a model there. You can be an actor at 40 and 50.
Absolutely.
There's still fashion.
I have plenty of friends back home that's their story, and some of them started when they were really young, and some of them picked it up in middle age. It just depends on when you come to it, I think. So what you're saying is, I've heard this from a lot of different friends as well as people on the show specifically, and I see it too, which is that part of what I enjoy about being here is the fact that within reason, as long as you're bringing value, you can do many things that you might not expect that you could do, because as long as you're bringing some unique perspective to this. What do you think is your unique perspective with your creativity podcast about marketing? What is your unique take that you're bringing into this when you want to interview somebody?
I try to make it more available for creative people, because I'm kind of mixed creativity and technical things, but a lot of people, they're more in business or more in art, acting, modeling, painting, music. They all there. And for those people, harder to sell themselves, market themselves. So when I interview people, I really bring those who focus, who specialize in something which brings value to my audience, and I ask them questions which often comes to with the conversation when I talk to people, or when they ask me, or sometimes when I have. They all even my mentors, and they direct me in my business, my life, my podcasting. When we talk about productivity, and we have, for example, the host, the guest gave 3 steps. You need to, before you go to sleep, you need to put together 3 main goals which you want to do tomorrow, or you want to do in general. And I'll look at my 3 goals, which I usually think about, right? I like to put some goals and then just reevaluate them to see how I'm going there. And I'll look at them, and I saw that I see the way I put them, for example, how to get more traffic on the website.
Okay.
It's never ending goal.
Sure.
So she said it needs to be something specific which you can reach. Instead of how to get more traffic on the website or how to get more listeners, I want to get 10,000 downloads per month. I want to get 10,000 visitors per month. Almost the same thing,
right?
But it changed my strategy.
Okay.
Because when I think about how to get traffic, there are a lot of ways. I can use social media. I can use guest posting, podcasting. Right. And it doesn't necessarily bring me visitors on the website. But when I look at, I want to get 10,000 visitors to my website, and I look through my social medias, and I analyze that from some social media I get more traffic. From some social media I get less traffic. So I just put more effort in the social media, which brings me more traffic.
Right.
It changed my strategy entirely.
And you've seen the results of that. It's paid off for you significantly.
Exactly.
What are some of the things that you have learned, if you could kind of summarize some of the best things you've taken from your podcast? Because you must have, I learned so much doing this, right? When I shut the hell up and let the other person tell me their story, I get to, of course, secondhand learn that information. That's why most people are listening. So what are some of the things that you've actually learned from doing your show that have really made a huge impression on you or changed your life?
A lot of things. Whatever I read, watch, or listen, I try to find something which I can implement. Otherwise, why did you read the book, or why did you listen to the podcast if you do not apply it to your life, right? So after every episode, I try something whether it's in the conversation or like this example in the productivity and setting the goals, right? And I get the results, and I often share it with my followers. Or some episodes ago, we talk about 80-20 principle in marketing and sales. So basically what happened, 20% of people bring you more money. 80% of people maybe will buy your service. But what happened in business, you focus on those 80%. Focus on pursuing people to like your art, to like your craft, and then maybe one day they will buy you. Because what happened with this 20%, you may think that, okay, I already closed the deal. And then you make a sale and then you stop working with them. It's like a fast sale for you. So the guy told that you need to focus on this 20% and just find out how to, you need to put a strategy how you can find those 20% among people, and he gives 5 steps on that. But also before I interview him, I read his book. So he's not only mentioning to put it into business and marketing perspective, but I thought about it, how can I apply it to my life? So look through my friends, through people who I meet. What are those 20% of people who I feel energized after talking to?
Yeah.
Or we exchange some really insights when we talk, or I don't know, just have a good time with. And I looked through the people and I found that a lot of my time I spend with people who just sometimes want to be with me because they're bored.
Okay.
Because they want to get some coffee.
Okay.
Because they don't really have some big visions, and I don't know. Just want to have some.
It's just a basic. It's maybe what I might call like a mundane interaction. It could be kind of anyone, is what you're saying, right? It could be you, or it could be another person they kind of know casually, but it's not like a deep connection.
Sometimes you meet with a person who always crying to you. I don't like my job. I want to go travel, or I want this, and they want that for years. Yeah. And sometimes you just meet with people who want to date with you, and it just wasted my time. And I don't feel anything after that.
Yeah.
But there are some people who we really have meaningful conversations. We had a good time, and even having fun together with those people. It just keeps you so energized and inspired that you go back to work and you want to do more. You go back to life and you enjoy your life more. And next month, I just kind of filter my meetings with people.
Okay.
And it was so awesome.
Yeah.
It was so awesome. I want to do more.
Yeah, you started applying your these filters.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that we made the cut here on Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom.
You in 20%.
Nice. I'll take that. That's the right kind of 20%. Awesome. So what do you want to do moving forward? Like, what are your goals for yourself in terms of your business, personal, professional, all those things? What do you see yourself doing in the next, short-term-ish, next few years?
That's a difficult question because I didn't really make a lot of plans. I'm a person who applies stuff. And when you're always in the action, it's hard to plan because you do the action and then you change accordingly to the result.
Right.
Right? Because while you think, what I will do in 2 years, maybe I will go to travel to America. Or maybe I'll make the TV show in 2 years. I'll make it now. Okay. I'll go travel now if I want it. Or I'll plan it in the near future. And with the podcast, for example, the career-wise, business-wise, I want to grow it. It was in the beginning like a model to help my photography business because I focus on portraits, and one of my audiences is professionals, business owners, actors, models for their portfolios, right? And I want to bring them this practical information, how they can grow their businesses. But now it grows more even like an individual model, because I connect people from US, Europe, here, and it's growing more and more. So I want to put more focus there and build myself as a personal brand internationally. I would never met those people who I met on the podcast if I wouldn't do that.
Exactly.
And now when I get interviews, I was in Beijing Radio International. I was featured in like American podcasts, some other Chinese podcasts. It's just like a snowball.
Yeah.
It's rolling and getting bigger and bigger.
Well, I think also what I see at least is, part of why I want to have you on the show, because we met at this podcasting event, Podcasting in the Jing. It was 3 or 4 episodes ago on my show. We did this special little live episode, little bonus. But there was that panel event talking about podcasting, and you were there, and we were talking afterward. And I looked up what you were about, and I thought, okay, she's really sincere, and she's passionately motivated by this. You're really into it, and you have a specific angle and a specific approach. And that's what I think you have to have. People who pursue a business where they don't have a clear focus are kind of lost. And in terms of this approach to your life and career, that is interesting. I guess I can relate to that as well in my way, but I think you have a very adventurous way that you're putting it together. Have you always been, it sounds, I think I'm asking a question or the answer to, but I want to hear what you have to say. Do you think you've always been adventurous? Because you came from what sounds like from where I'm from, that's a medium-sized city as well. From China, that's like a tiny place. But you're from like sort of a medium-sized city back home.
I'm telling you a secret. I'm an introvert.
Okay.
And people don't really believe that.
I can relate to that. Yeah. So how is this part of how you've overcome your introversion a little bit?
So I was quite when I was young. Sometimes I could visit my grandma and she would cook something and then come into the room and say, "Marina, you're here? I forgot that you visit me."
Like you're so quiet in the corner.
Yes, exactly.
Because you are really tall, so like you might make yourself really small, and you're just kind of
I
over.
would just play somewhere in the corner, building a house with my dolls, or just making something there. But when I grew up, I just really like this world. And before, when I started traveling, I made the dream list, and I fulfill a lot of stuff from there. While people dream about something, I do things. Because you can dream about things for many years, but the worst thing which will happen, that you will regret that you did not do it before. Why would you think about it? It's not so hard to go travel. It's not so hard to be in the movie if this is your dream. This is what I want for people. Find their passion and just go with it. But if you don't know what is that, try as many things as you want, and then you will see which things you like, which things you don't like. I always wanted in my dream list, I wanted to play golf.
Okay.
So I wanted that for many years because I see the movies and it looks like interesting.
Sure, looks fun.
Looks fun.
Nice scenery usually.
I tried it in Beijing.
Yeah.
2 hours hitting a ball. 90% you miss the ball.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to do it anymore. It's so boring.
I
need to get old. Probably.
So this is something you've learned? Mm-hmm. So without making this too much about me, I relate to this idea of naturally being an introvert who's overcome that a lot to kind of play an extrovert for the sake of the outside world and having a life. For yourself, being that that's a pretty hardwired tendency. How do you overcome that and do what you do?
You know what I've noticed in people? When you find what you're passionate about, you cannot stop an introvert. They will become an extrovert. They will talk about their passion. You will see the fire in their eyes. You just need to find what is that specific things which you're passionate about.
And what is, without this sounding like a marketing pitch for your show, like what is it that you're passionate about? Like deep down, what really drives you?
I like interaction with people. I like helping people. It goes with my photography because I'm a portrait photographer. And it's not about the picture as I thought in my beginning, but more about bringing experience to people. I bring so much confidence to those people. Women who come to me, they often do not believe that they can be so beautiful. A lot of women who I photographed their first time in front of my camera, and we just work with them and then look at them after the photo shoot, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that I'm so beautiful. I'm like, you are. Because what happened if someone take a picture with their phone and you see yourself, and of course
that's not the most flattering angle. Yeah. There's no selfie stick in the world that competes with a professional photographer and lighting.
I hate this. Even I don't like to be photographed by random people.
Yeah.
And
you have about one good angle out of the 100 available, and I need that to be that angle.
This is how I became a photographer, actually. Because I've done some, tests for print, TFP shots.
Sure.
When people get together, they do the photo shoot, and then everyone get the photos.
Right.
So I get together with the photographer, and we spend the whole day together. After that, I got 700 photos.
Mm-hmm. Do you find one that you like?
2.
Wow. And this is the thing, for the sake of people who are, models, actors, actresses, and photographers will often do these trade outs where it's like, oh, little practice for me, maybe some good shots for the person in front of the camera, and for the person behind the camera, practice and maybe some good stuff for my portfolio. So like 700 shots, and maybe get 2 that are.
But I didn't do it. I will shoot less. I will show you even less photos.
Yeah.
But I will show you already the final beautiful version of you.
That's
I
good.
had a woman who searched for almost an hour. He came for a reviewing session to see her portraits. There were 37 or so photos of her.
Okay.
And she could not choose.
She was really happy with the choices.
Yeah. Because I usually have packages and people pick less than they usually see.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give them all of them to you if you want, just for this price. And she said, deal. I want them all.
Nice.
I never saw myself from this side.
That's really great. And so bringing that out, bringing that hidden side of people out is part of what you
Guys
love.
tell me, I feel more handsome. I feel more comfortable. I didn't know that I can look like this. And the same I do with my podcast. I try to bring people more value, that they can build up their own life, their own business.
What sort of value, in terms of feedback you've had from your podcast guests, what have you heard has been something that they've taken away from being on your show in particular? The people comment about your approach, your angle, the way you do it.
A lot of people say that I'm very organized. I'm like, really? Because I would do this for myself. Because I like to send some notes before, talk about the audience so they know who they talk to.
Right.
And I just make their life as much easy as I can. So they just come to the show, we do the great episode, and I do very, very light editing after that.
Right.
Just with some noise and small
You basically
things.
clean it up, but you don't really cut out a lot of stuff. And mine is more of a hybrid. I mean, we've had some tangents. My fault, if you guys can't guess, that you're not hearing because they're gone, because they're not here magically. Hopefully this sounds like a very tight professional conversation, minus the occasional silliness, and that's an approach. And I have an outline. And it depends. Because you're doing a show where, we're talking off mic, but you have a show where you're trying to get strategies and tactics and tips and things you can share with people. It's actionable information. And that's what I enjoy about your blog posts. Before I let you go, what are the places where people can find you online? I'll include it in the show notes, but where can people find you online?
They can go to the website, intnetworkplus.com. It's intnetworkplus.com. So there they can find all the episodes, or they can search your iTunes, Stitchers, or Android, anywhere on any platforms, marketing for creatives, and just listen to the episodes. A very cool thing that I have good feedback about the show, that people apply to their lives. And it's happy when you create something and it changed someone's life. They get more clients, they get better jobs, they plan to travel finally. Awesome. So exciting. And they can find me on social media anywhere as Marina Barayeva. It's MarinaBarayeva.
Marina, it's really great to meet you.
It's a lot of pleasure to be on your show and serve your audience. Thank you.
All right, that's the show this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to find out more about Marina or the show, or contact me, or anything else we discussed here on the episode. You can find that at crazyinagoodway.com on the podcast and blog page. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week.